shown in German cinemas. In summer 1937, the first 16mm colour film produced by Agfa appeared on the market in Germany. Despite its high price, many amateur film enthusiasts were prepared to dig deep into their pockets to use it. Members of the Institute for Folklore in Halle also filmed with the new material. In 1938, racial researchers in Friedeburg and der Saale documented a community festival for their archive. The Germans had settled in comfortably under the swastika. The overwhelming majority of the population were devoted to the Führer.
Film enthusiasts throughout the Third Reich began using color film. When he wasn't at work in his bakehouse, Hamburg master pastry chef Kurt Lehfeld was out and about shooting footage of his hometown. Lehfeld preferred the products manufactured in America. In 1935, the Kodak company developed color film, which it also marketed in Germany. From May to September 1938, Lehfeld documented life and work in Hamburg's famous warehouse district and in its port. Lehfeld's camera also captured the Kai Speicher A warehouse building. Visible from afar, its tower was a landmark. The success enjoyed by Hamburg's port stemmed originally from international trade, but Germany's gateway to the world had been hard hit by the Great Depression. A large proportion of Hamburg's merchant fleet had to be decommissioned. In its dockyards, workers were laid off on a huge scale. But round trips to German seaside resorts or through the port were, it seems, highly popular with locals and tourists. From the landing stages and the old Elbe tunnel, ships headed down the River Elbe.
Also captured on the film taken by Lehfeld are pictures of the Wilhelm Gustloff, a luxurious cruise liner which was intended to symbolize the classless nature of Nazi society. Strength Through Joy was not an organization of Nazi bigwigs, but the party expected anyone who was allowed to sail to Norway for a week to behave appropriately. Through work procurement measures financed with credit and through contracts awarded by the Senate, the Nazis had succeeded in reducing unemployment, thanks mainly to increasing rearmament contracts from the German Navy. The situation was also gradually improving in the port. By 1936, Hamburg's 6 major dockyards were again providing nearly 20,000 jobs. Lehfeld's film recordings are rare documents of a bygone age, when 1,300 mobile electric cranes and hundreds of stevedores unloaded goods from all over the world.
The Hamburg pastry chef entered his 20-minute-long documentation in a competition and won first prize. His footage portrayed many ships which today exist only in the memories of Hamburg's elderly citizens. Like the Monte Rosa, the liner which, in 1931, sailed on a regular schedule to the east coast of South America. The vessel normally carried cargo and passengers, but the Monte Rosa was also used for pleasure cruises.
One of the first film enthusiasts who could afford the new 16mm color material was Hitler's chief pilot, Hans Bauer. In Berlin on September the 27th, 1937, Bauer filmed the state visit of Italy's fascist leader, Benito Mussolini. In front of the Technical University, the Führer gave the Duce and his entourage a demonstration of Prussian traditions and showed his guests the results of German rearmament. Hans Bauer was allowed to film the spectacle from one of the rear rows on the VIP stand. After the demise of the Third Reich, these unique documents of Hitler's immediate environment were regarded as lost. It wasn't until 1988 that they were rediscovered in the estate of a former US soldier from Tennessee. As head of a translation unit of the American Secret Service in Munich, in 1945, Herbert St. Goar learned where Agfa color film footage taken by Hitler's pilot had been secretly buried. He secured it and took it back with him to Chattanooga.
Displaying weaponry of all kinds, the parade lasted 3 hours. Mussolini was particularly impressed by the goose-stepping, so much so, in fact, that on his return, he also had the snappy marching style introduced into the Italian armed forces. Hitler saw the pompous parade as the expression of his enhanced sense of self-esteem. We are somebody once again. We have demolished the Treaty of Versailles. We have the same arms as our adversaries. Perhaps ours are even better.
That autumn in 1937, it wasn't only at home that the Third Reich demonstrated its regained strength. At the World Exhibition in Paris, the Germans were allocated a site right next to the Eiffel Tower for their huge pavilion. The Soviet Union had built its exhibition hall directly opposite. In terms of monumentality, the communist dictatorship was certainly on a par with Germany. Hitler had commissioned his new favorite, Albert Speer, with the design of the German pavilion. The two had spent many nights in Berlin and on the Obersalzberg, poring over drafts and drawings. On Sunday, February the 27th, 1938, a cine enthusiast from Nuremberg filmed this carnival procession. A local Nazi newspaper wrote,
"It's not always necessary to wonder whether you're in the midst of supporters or enemies. Instead, you should set yourself above inhibitions that are better suited to the affected and not to the Germans of our magnificent era. An age which, whether in earnest or in jest, offers incredible impressions and proves time and again that the concord and solidarity of a great ethnic community are the most wonderful gifts of the National Socialist state."
In 1944, Swiss businessman René Jouvet published a factual report on his experiences in the Third Reich. In it, he describes a conversation he had in autumn 1937.
My friend was over the moon. He had expected many things, but not what he was now witnessing with his own eyes. Such happy, optimistic people. "You've not seen everything," I told him. "Above all, you're forgetting what price the German nation has had to pay. The loss of personal freedom and tribute in public life."
By this point in time, Hitler had long since decided to lead Germany into a new war, and also to tighten measures against the Jewish population. Consequently, on one of the carnival floats, caricatures of Jews hung from gallows, as if this was something totally natural. According to eyewitnesses, the float was greeted with frenetic applause.
In Quedlinburg in 1938, a member of the SS took this colored footage of his most secret post. Heinrich Himmler was visiting the town. He came to Quedlinburg every year to honor his great uncle. King Henry I lies buried in a cathedral, and Himmler turned the church into a national shrine.
Oh well.
The head of the SS wanted to replace Christianity with Teutonic cult worship. His devotion was to the swastika. His lifetime goal was to eradicate the Jewish nation.
I don't like.
In early May 1938, Hitler's chief pilot, Hans Bauer, accompanied the Führer on a state visit to Italy. He documented his impressions of the trip in a short film, which he entitled Beautiful Italy. 6 months later, the censor approved it for public showing in the Third Reich. The state visit was to have been documented in colour by a professional camera team from the Nazi propaganda machine. But problems with the optical filters made its footage unusable. As a result, Hans Bauer was able to earn money with his amateur film. After the annexation of Austria in March, Hitler had expected Italian leader Benito Mussolini to give his approval for Germany to seize the Sudetenland. The Germans actually wanted to sign a written agreement with the Italians, but their hosts were hesitant and only relented when, in a public statement, Hitler declared the Brenner border to be the eternally valid border between Germany and Italy.
The official host was King Vittorio Emanuele III, and the monarch knew how to ease Mussolini into the background. Hitler was repulsed by the obsequiousness of court ceremony, and he let the king feel it.
Up to cheer on official occasions. Anyone who is politically unreliable, anyone who has roused even the slightest suspicion of being a naysayer, is to be kept away from such occasions. The yes men know what is expected. They cheer spontaneously, at the right place and at the right time.
March of the Golden Standards is the title of a colour film which an unknown cine enthusiast took on this particular day. He was part of a delegation from the Siebel Aircraft Works, a Nazi model plant which the day before had been honoured by Hitler himself and was allowed to provide one of the 200 flag bearers. In his speech, the Führer adopted a pacific tone and castigated an alleged international clique of Jewish warmongers. But in actual fact, 4 weeks previously, he had ordered his military leaders to prepare the invasion of neighboring Poland. The rearmament of Nazi Germany was taking place at full speed. Consequently, on this May the 1st, it was mainly arms factories who participated in this parade of the golden standards. To the sound of appropriate marching music, the golden standard of the Siebel Aircraft Works in Halle was rolled up. This was the last May holiday to be celebrated in such grandiose style in the Third Reich.
Because the outbreak of the Second World War was only a few weeks away. In Berlin in the summer of 1939, there appeared to be little enthusiasm for a renewed call to arms. Memories of the Great War of 1914 to 1918 were too traumatic. This is how an American reporter described the mood.
Everyone is against war. How can a country start a decisive war with a people so tired of war?
An internal note stated that
Faith in the Führer will now be put to the test more than ever before.
And a German journalist noted that
The observer cannot help thinking that people are deliberately indulging in unrestrained enjoyment.
it was a dance on the volcano. The recently completed Reich Chancellery was deserted. Albert Speer had adapted the huge building entirely to the Führer's wishes, but Hitler preferred to forge his plans for conquering Poland on the Obersalzberg, far away from the capital of the Reich. Only occasionally did he show himself to his people.
On July 16, 1939, the whole of Munich was dedicated to National Socialist creative activity. Hitler wanted the Day of German Art to be celebrated as a true festival of peace. The members of an amateur film club had been positioned at various points in the city to document all important events. The first item on the program for the morning was the laying of a wreath at the grave of architect Ludwig Trost. Local branches of the Association of German Amateur Filmmakers were commissioned more and more often by party officers to document major events on 16mm color film because there was still no satisfactory process for professional cinema productions. On this particular day, the members of the Munich branch of the association had been provided with passes and armbands which allowed them access to all prime filming locations.
On the afternoon of July the 16th, anybody who was anybody in the Third Reich took their seat in the VIP stand to marvel at a 3-hour procession of live images from 2,000 years of German culture. Not only was Germany's future to be National Socialist, so was its past. In the program for this tacky festival, it said,
The German eagle towers above the whole procession. With it ends this manifestation of our history. At the same time, it gazes into the eternal future, keenly and calmly, with pride and assured of victory, announcing the greatness of our era and our willingness to act. It is the herald of our doing and our plans.
American reporter Ernest Pope commented,
The Nazi procession is the admission of the Führer's restless plans for conquest.
On the Obersalzberg, Eva Braun filmed Hitler in the pose of a resolute power politician. Hitler clearly displayed his willingness for war, while at the same time keeping open the possibility of a peaceful solution by receiving diplomats from all over the world.
Like Khalid al-Hud, the special envoy of the King of Saudi Arabia. The Wahhabis had established an absolute monarchy on the Arabian Peninsula. They had control of oil, a commodity so keenly sought after by every major power. And they were fanatical anti-Semites. In the end, all that was agreed on this occasion was an insignificant arms deal. Accompanied by his accomplices, Reinhard Heydrich and Karl Wolff, Heinrich Himmler had also traveled to the Obersalzberg. They were planning an extermination program to which not only Poland's intelligentsia, but also its Jewish population would fall victim.
On August the 12th, 1939, Eva Braun filmed on the terrace of the Berghof. Hitler was awaiting a visit from the Italian foreign minister. On official occasions, the Führer's mistress had to withdraw into her rooms. So this time too, she could only secretly film a few scenes prior to the arrival of the state guest. Count Ciano wanted to win over his ally for a new international conference, but the Führer was determined to defeat Poland militarily. Ciano's efforts were fruitless. This is how he described his meeting with Hitler.
He has decided to attack, and he will attack.
A march of the Federation of German Girls and the Hitler Youth in Offenburg on May the 19th, 1939. Here too, by now, the Second World War was not far off. Paul Stober, who had been documenting everyday life in his hometown ever since 1928, filmed the Nazi Party's local annual conference in the Baden district in color. Among the town's dignitaries was publisher Franz Burda. As early as 1933, in his popular radio magazine Zurach, he had already stated that
in its thoughts, desires, and acts, the Zurach has always been solidly German and patriotic, nationalist and socialist. The spirit of the new age is alive in it. No Jewish capital has been invested in the printing house, nor are any of the company's contributors or employees Jewish.
Just chill.
The highlight of the event was the address by district leader Karl Rombach. Since 1936, Offenburg had been a garrison town. Accordingly, local military leaders also presented themselves in parade uniforms as part of National Socialist Society.
On September the 8th, 1939, a loudspeaker vehicle announced news of the Wehrmacht successes in Poland. The Offenburger Tagesblatt also printed special reports from the Army's Supreme Command. The Germans couldn't believe that their fathers, husbands, and sons were sweeping through Poland so quickly. Every day, maps were hastily put up to show the latest conquests. On this particular day, September the 8th, German tank units had reached the suburbs of Warsaw. Hitler's first blitzkrieg ended on October the 6th with the capitulation of Poland.
Johannes Bliesener,
Crazy Laura Loomer is about to make some sense. Watch.
What is it going to mean for the future of our country, our national security, and the incoming Trump administration if we have a bunch of technocrats who are also essentially welfare queens because their companies are receiving government subsidies and they want to take over our defense industry? If you have a bunch of tech bros with billions of dollars and direct unfettered access to the vice president and the president of the United States, and then they are also, very cordial with our adversaries, as in China and Iran. We see that Elon Musk is having these meetings off the books with Iranian officials, with Chinese officials. What does that mean for us and the future of our constitutional republic?
Okay, I told you she's making some good points. Looks like MAGA just found out they got taken by a bunch of globalists.
The person whose name was on the ballot was Donald Trump. He won the election, and his position on H-1B visas is that he thinks it's a good program that can have some benefit. His position on illegal immigration and the crisis on that in the country generally is that it has to stop. And I don't think it is impossible for the Republican Party, led by Donald Trump, advised by Elon Musk, and supported by a bunch of other Republicans out there, it's not impossible for this group to find its way to a common ground. H-1B visa program is reformed, fraud is eliminated, we find a way to bring in the smart people, the people that help America, and then on the southern border, we find a way to close it, stop the illegal immigration crisis, stop the drug crisis, stop the crime and the criminals. We can do both at the same time, and that's what Trump and Elon are for, and the vast majority of Republicans are going to support that.
And there's Scott Jennings saying that Donald Trump likes the H-1B visa that brings in high-skilled workers, which is what Elon Musk was a proponent of and Laura Loomer was opposed to. But now the question is, which one is it, MAGA? Are you for it? Are you against it? The civil war begins.
You're totally right. And think of the irony here, Rachel. They shipped all their good manufacturing jobs overseas and said, we'll teach them to code. Now it turns out, no, actually, we're going to import people to do the coding.
She just summed it up really well. Learn to code, America. You're not learning to code? All right, we'll bring in cheaper labor so that we can pay them less, and they'll code.
If the argument is between Ann Coulter and Elon Musk, I'm going to side with Elon because he's got a more rational argument here. Part of the problem is in American schools and colleges and universities, they're not producing a lot of engineers. They're producing a lot of women's studies majors who are anti-Semites on some campuses. So we need more engineers. So how are you going to entice the smartest engineers in the world but for a program like this?
And she just made the point that we're not creating enough engineers, which I guess she makes a good point, but we also have underfunded our education. Our schools have been underfunded, so we're not creating a lot of everything because the right and MAGA keeps wanting to take away from public schooling, keeps wanting to take away funding, keeps wanting to take away programs, keeps wanting to privatize schooling. And here we are in a world in which we don't have enough engineers to possibly work in these jobs that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy were advocating to have H-1B visas for. Now, the H-1B visa is very interesting because it's supposed to be high-skilled workers. They've got a skill. We need them. A lot of engineers come through. A lot of them go to the tech world, accounting, a lot of accountants. People are coming from places like India, other Eastern countries, Middle East, some other places. They're coming here because they qualify for these jobs. But what you find out when you look at it actually is these companies like Google and some of these other big tech companies that are hiring these people are actually underpaying them. So it's not just that they're high skilled, it's that they're willing to work for less. Now for them it's good, it's a great opportunity. They're coming, they're making good money, probably sending some of that back home. But for American workers, they're getting screwed because they're being undercut by the guys coming in with the H-1B visas. So it's not the workers' fault and it's not the American workers' fault nor the H-1B visa workers' fault, but it is the fault of these multi-billion-dollar companies that are trying to cut corners and cut costs. And rather than hiring some people that are American citizens that might be qualified for these jobs and paying them the full wage that they deserve, or rather than actually putting money into the American school system and saying these are the kinds of people that we need, so start training more and more people in the world of engineering, in the world of coding, or whatever it is that you need for the tech world. These companies are just putting a Band-Aid over it and saying, let me go find someone who's going to do it for cheap, bring them in, and we won't fund the future workforce. And that's the big problem that we run into all the time, where MAGA is saying that immigrants are taking our jobs, but the truth is that technology, that advancement is taking people's jobs, and we're not doing a good job of training our people to take those jobs, you understand? And so we end up in a situation where people are coming in, taking less pay, and doing those jobs, and we're in the situation where that causes a rift within MAGA. And Laura Loomer was right about the tech bros. The tech bros basically bought the election. If you don't think Elon Musk bought the election, look at how much he put in, look at the profits he made. He put in about like 120 million or so through his super PAC, and right away his net worth went up by tens of billions of dollars. I mean, that's a great investment. That's a very short-term investment. It's a great investment. So the tech pros, they're the ones. Peter Thiel is the one who put J.D. Vance in the position to be vice president. So if you guys don't see it, you should look around and look at who's funding what and how this is all coming into play. Elon Musk did that tweet that slowed down the passing of the budget just a couple weeks ago. So yes, they were joking that Elon Musk is the president, but really he and a bunch of others have taken over and continue to take over, and they're benefiting from all of this stuff. When you end up in this international world where there's no fair play. The more money you have, the better you do. That's why we need regulations, and that's why people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and other tech bros hate regulation.
The image of the day, or images of the day from my point of view, is you had Donald Trump sitting there being sworn in as the next president of the United States, his, let's call it likely, top cabinet members right behind him.
Yep.
With Jeff Bezos,
Yes.
Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Sundar Pichai, Tim Cook.
Yeah,
that was. Keep in mind,
They had better seats than the cabinet members.
They had
right?
better seats
Yeah.
than most of the cabinet members.
Well, we have officially entered into Trump 2 electric. Oh, we are screwed. I think that's the name of the film officially. Listen, I mean, in fairness to the new president, the new old president, the new president, he did a little break in between to commit felonies. He's in there, but this time it's going to be different. He is a man of the people now. He cares about lowering grocery prices.
The president-elect is moving the goalposts on some of his pledges, like lowering the price of groceries. It's hard to bring things down once they're up, Trump says. You know, it's very hard.
What's that I'm being told? He already said he's going to have a very hard time lowering prices. Okay, sure, but at least the inauguration is going to prove that he's a man of the people. What's that? It's indoors, and the people that flew there are not able to see the inauguration. But he did reserve seats in the very front for all of the tech CEOs that run social media. Got it. Got it.
Jeff Bezos, the billionaire owner of the Washington Post and Amazon and that space company, standing in front of RFK Jr.
You see, an oligarchy is taking place here in America, and if you don't know what an oligarchy is, it's when a bunch of rich, oily guys, or oligarchs, gain all the power, and the government serves only who serve them, and not the people. But I'm sure that won't, get out of control, right off the bat. I mean, yes, they were there seated ahead of the president's own cabinet, and in a very limited amount of seats. It was basically them, RFK Jr. and Carrie Underwood, who waited a very long time to start singing. But it's not so bad. I'm sure they're not going to get drunk on power right off the very beginning. You know, I'm sure Elon Musk, who's the closest to Trump out of all of them, wouldn't then go to the president's inauguration parade rally event at the Capital One Arena in DC right after that and do this, would he?
Thank you.
So he did. So that's what he decided. How he decided to end his speech at an arena there. Maybe he made a mistake. He didn't. I'm sure he corrected it when he then turned to the people in the back of the audience.
My heart goes out to you.
He did it twice. Okay, but here's the thing. Who cares? It's not like we. Okay, it's bad. I can't sugarcoat it, really. I mean, I think the perfect analogy being that he literally only made the inauguration for insiders, literally indoors in a much smaller space where he couldn't invite his supporters who are supposed to be who he cares about now. But of course he didn't. He did care about some of his supporters, though. He signed a bunch of executive orders on day one, including pardoning over 1,500 of the January 6th Capitol insurrectionists, including people that took batons and poles to beat police officers with. So that's nice. It's just like everyday Americans. You know, the guy with the Camp Auschwitz sweatshirt, he's been pardoned. You know, all the really great folks that are now empowered even further. And why would Trump have all of these tech CEOs there? Well, A, it's obviously because he loves when people show fealty to him, when they get on their knees and do what they have to do to make sure they make a little bit of extra profit at the cost of truth, and only paid $1 million to be there. Zuckerberg threw a party for him for the inauguration. He wants to be one of the cool guys. These guys were against him in his first term, and now they are just all getting in line. And it's not like they just control social media, which they do, controlling the people that are there. Control only Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, the Washington Post, all of Google, all of TikTok. That's right, the super bad danger to our democracy, the spy software that Trump said we had to shut down a few years ago. TikTok, the CEO of TikTok was also there as well. Rupert Murdoch, of course, was there. Somehow being kept alive by the sheer will of greed and evil. And that's what we got now.
You expect me to believe that a Black Hawk helicopter...
This has 945,000 likes, dude. I'm so cooked. We are so cooked. Dude, we're done. We're done. We're done. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. It's over. Wrap it up, dude.
Over.
Yo.
Let it all be
While
said.
investigators
and
work to find the cause of the deadly D.C. crash, President Trump is ordering a review of DEI in aviation, warning it may have played a role in this tragedy.
We don't even yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed, and you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people, you mean the names of the people that are on the plane? You think that's going to make a difference? They are a group of people that have lost their lives. If you want a list of the names, we can give you that. We'll be giving that very soon. We're in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. But I think that's not a very smart question.
Interesting. Hogs mad. r/conservative users are really not happy with the DEI angle. Not the time to do this for political points. Let the investigators do their job and families mourn. Trump will never not use a moment to promote his political points or opinions, no matter how irrelevant the situation they are. Same old Trump. He can never keep his mouth shut. I mean, one, these guys are still absolutely gonna be Trump voters, Trump supporters, whatever. Yeah, I'm hearing stories so far. I have not seen anything
watching my
legitimate
stream
about this other than like personal anecdotes, but trans people are reporting that like there have been not one, not two, but numerous trans people have reportedly had issues with the passport office, and I don't know, it could be an issue with oversight so far. And we'll get into it in a little bit, but as you guys know, one of the problems or one of the major things that the Trump administration has wanted to do was engage in trans erasure. You have to have your gender be the gender assigned at birth, only man and woman, that sort of stuff, you know. I am so cold, and I literally have turned off the AC, and it's still cold. Okay. Federal employees are told to remove pronouns from email signatures by end of day, apparently. Yeah, they're doing really stupid things. Like, they're doing really aesthetic-focused, stupid things. But part of that is also, deliberate, where they're, what do you call it? They're like doing this at the behest of like hurting trans people, harming marginalized communities in general. So it goes beyond aesthetic. No, I mean like aesthetically, as in like demanding that you remove your gender pronouns from your email signature is aesthetic. That is like, that's just the most bottom of the barrel. Like it's something that you do because you're just like, yeah, we're really gonna stick it to the trans people. Like that's it. That's what it is. It's just like bullying, right? But there are far more consequential, far more impactful aspects of the trans erasure that we are talking about. So they're hitting it from every angle. Does that make sense? Where they're doing like silly things, but then they're also actively trying to do much larger, much more harmful things, such as banning any sort of hormone replacement therapy. Any sort of hormone replacement therapy. It's going to lead to massive problems. Like, if your goal is to simply dunk on some trans people, in that process, you're going to end up harming every American. You're not just going to harm trans people. You're going to harm cis people as well. There are far more cis people than there are trans people out there. You know what I mean? Hold on. Health resources vanish following DEI and gender orders. Vague federal directives have led to frantic action and perhaps overreaction before a Friday deadline. Federal and state health officials and staff members scrambled on Friday to comply with a 5 p.m. deadline by Trump administration to terminate any programs that promote gender ideology and to withdraw documents and any other media that may do so. Federal workers have already been ordered to halt diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives to scrub public references to those efforts and to place employees involved in them on administrative leave. Known TRT users like Rogan and Hulk Hogan will have a hard time getting testosterone therapy. Yeah, probably not, because the reality of the matter is their job isn't to like undercut their government in its entirety. I think that like I think their goal is to specifically stop trans people from existing. Those pieces will always be able to get their steroids, unfortunately. Yeah, by the way, of course, classic fake news moment. My brother Jack Wallace just found out the helicopter pilot was a transgender. They aren't going to be able to hide this much longer. A transgender Black Hawk helicopter pilot for the military wrote a long letter about gender dysphoria and depression one day before the fatal crash. Virginia pilot responds after she's falsely targeted over Black Hawk crash. Joe Ellis, a National Guard pilot who was transgender, was falsely identified as the captain of the crashed military helicopter in thousands of social media posts. Yeah, you are the media now. She's alive. Yeah, of course she's alive, because she wasn't the helicopter pilot for this helicopter crash. I can't stand this shit. It's so insane. It's so incredibly stupid. And like, I can't begin to talk about how disrespectful this is to the victims. I can't begin to talk about how hateful and stupid such an attitude is, like demonstrating such an attitude is, because none of that matters. These guys have one goal and one goal only, okay? And then you got like absolute morons in here. So you're saying that trans people are actually better pilots? Did I ever say that? I don't know. I have no opinion. I don't think trans people are magical beings. I think they're just, you know, just like every other type of person, okay? I'm joking, bro. Okay, well, don't crack jokes like this right now. You know what I mean? There's hella people who do that. It's just crazy. Every single person involved could be white. Every single person involved could be a white man, right? Like just a straight up white dude. And these guys will still say DEI, as is the case with this situation. What we're talking about here with this specific crash is literally that. Virtually every single person involved in it is a white dude. And it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if they were, you know, if they weren't all white. Like, my point is, DEI is a ridiculous argument to make regardless. It comes with the notion that, like, people who aren't white men are actually somehow being uplifted to these positions that they don't deserve because they're not white, because we have, like, racial quotas or whatever. That's what it is. And the irony for the ATC especially, and even the military, because they say they're DEI in the military too sometimes. But the irony is that these powers are so consistently understaffed. So if there's any sort of lowering of the hiring standards that anyone has ever, lowering the hiring standards that they've had in the past, it is directly due to the need for more hired help on this side, okay? It is insane. It's understaffed and it's underfunded, and these guys are, in spite of these potentially quote unquote lowering of restrictions that people are claiming is occurring, they're still understaffed. Or the US people are so addicted to skin color, people, it doesn't mean culture doesn't matter. It's just crazy to me because, like, God forbid there is a woman or a black person involved in any high profile incident. Oh my God. That's all. Like, these guys lie about it when there isn't a black person or a woman involved. I don't know what's going to happen when there is one. You know what I mean? Yeah, here it is. I can't remember the last time I've seen the military withhold a casualty ID. Unfortunately, the reason the family would make this request is all too clear and credible. The U.S. military official told NPR on Friday that at the request of the family, the Army is not going to release the name of the female member of the three-person helicopter crew. The official was not authorized to speak publicly on the matter. You know why? What are they hiding? What? America first? What are they hiding? Says Patriot Vac Services. Patriot HVAC Services. Okay, no. This is a chatter. This is a, you asshole, stop. Patriot HVAC Services? Come on. This is definitely a Hassan Head who made this account, right? Like, as a meme, as a joke, about like something I joke about all the time. Now let's get back to Peter Douchey talking about Trump turning things upside down.
Operate that air traffic control tower. It's a very busy airport. It's in there about 19 currently on staff. So we have a staffing issue at the Reagan Airport, DCA. DCA, very busy airport. We have 800 flights inbound and outbound each and every day at Reagan Airport. And overall, I believe our record, our safety record, is the gold standard. But when we have an issue like this, it needs to be addressed. There needs to be some oversight from Congress. We need to make sure that if these airports are struggling with air traffic controllers, they bring it to our attention, and we can try to encourage more younger people to get into that field.
I struggle with this DEI stuff. I covered DEI when I ran campus reform.
Dog, I'm sorry. Oh, man. That's... No. It's not as a black man moment, okay? Because it's not... Being black and working a normal job is entirely different than being black on Fox News, okay? These are two entirely separate planes of existence. When conservatives talk about tokenization or DEI or anything of that sort, okay, they're projecting, because the only way conservatives utilize black people is to have them sit there and say, my co-hosts are not racist. I, as a black man, know what real racism is, and that is not Donald Trump, or that is not insert conservative public figure. Okay? It's ironic because he's performing that duty, performing that role right now. Now, this doesn't mean that it's like, he doesn't have merit. I think that his willingness to play the role of a black man that will defend white supremacy is the merit for Fox News. It is the job for Fox News. It's just that, just kind of funny to see someone being like, yeah, I don't think we should hire. Oh, he has no merit. Trust me on that one. No, the merit for us is different than what the goals are with Fox News. The role that Fox News wants him to play.
Maybe it had the original intent was good, but it's gone way too far. I understand organic diversity. I understand that some people at one point in time in history, or maybe today, were denied jobs because they're qualified, because of their race, sexual orientation, or whatever. I understand that. But why are we trying to...
What was that?
In history, or maybe today, were denied jobs because they're qualified.
It's crazy to hit a maybe on that. Like, when you're talking about historic job discrimination, like, you're literally black, dude. Like, what is happening? What do you mean maybe? Like, you have a black mother and a black father. You have a black grandfather and a black grandmother, two of them. What the hell are we talking? You got relatives? Like, it's not that long ago. I just don't get it. I don't know how you can still hit that with a maybe. But then again, that's his job. That's his job here, okay? That's the role. That's why he's there. And he's playing that role. I'm just saying. He's like, oh, yeah, I don't... It's DEI stuff, man. Yeah, let's continue.
If the race, sexual orientation, or whatever, I understand that. But why are we trying to...
Why are the .govs going down? They're just... That's crazy. FAA.gov is down. They're taking out all the federal... They're taking out all the federal... Wait, is that... I can't tell if... Is it real? MHUD? Is FAA.gov? I can't tell if you're baiting me or not. They're taking him down because Donald Trump issued a mandate saying you got to delete all of your DEI stuff. Breaking, Trump administration officials are putting a pause on most federal government websites. They're expected to go dark at 5 p.m., Trump officials told me.
Get people with mental disabilities to work air traffic control. I mean, there is a place for them in society, but a lot of the diversity push just doesn't make sense. It's not a value of diversity in air traffic control. It just doesn't. The one thing that we need to focus on is the person qualified for the job. Yep. Does their diverse background bring them some additional information to the job? But just hiring people to meet different metrics doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry.
Right. The last thing I would say, it reminds me of the story we had the LA fires, where that fire chief was saying.
I do love why. I do love, one, explaining the historic necessity for why, like, DEI initiatives originally started, whether it be affirmative action or whatnot, which is to, combat racial hiring discriminatory practices, right? Hiring discriminatory practices on the boundaries of, like, race, gender, whatever, and then turning around and saying, but it's really messed up that they're doing this other thing, which is, like, not the case, right? Standards being lowered or whatever, admitting that there's a problem that exists, explaining what the solution to that problem is, and then simultaneously pointing to the solution to that problem as a bad thing by explaining something entirely different. That's what he's doing here. He explained the historic reasons to why DEI and those sorts of initiatives exist, which is, once again, to combat historic discriminatory hiring practices. That's it. It doesn't mean there are racial quotas, or it doesn't mean that there are, like, intellectual disability quotas where they're like, we need to hire 10 people with Down syndrome or something. Like, that's not how this works at all. Okay? Especially on the racial or gender boundaries, DEI, or rather, like, HR practices that focus on hiring from all different backgrounds is just that. A way to improve the hiring practices so that you don't immediately disqualify certain groups of individuals, as was done historically. That's it. That's it. That's all it is.
We want people to know that if you're in a fire, there's somebody coming to save you that looks like you. No, I'd like somebody I just don't want to burn. Right. I just don't want to burn.
I want to live. I don't want to burn to death. All right, so NBC has a story, and the headline is, fear and chaos grip federal workers as Trump rapidly remakes the government. Donald Trump has said, as you know, we've been covering this. He wants to...
I don't get it. I don't understand. I mean, I guess, like, if you have nothing, this is, like, exciting for you. I don't know. They're like, yeah, we're lighting everything on fire. It's so sick. It's like, it's not. I don't think it's sick. I don't think this is good. I think this spells disorder and chaos, which is bad. But what do I know, you know? But I guess when you're a rudderless ship, when you are a rudderless ship in terms of your politics, in terms of your political ideology, I don't get it. You're just, the only thing you care about, I guess, is that you're, Trump is removing HIV data sets from CDC could seriously affect HIV prevention efforts. What happens if all people lose federal jobs can walk out full collapse? I'm kind of stoned right now. Yes, that's not going to happen. Damn, do they tint your brows? I'm so tired this morning. Holy shit.
In the work from home practices. So he offered the deferred resignation. They get paid through September if you resign by February 6th. There are only 6% of our federal workers that are working full-time in an office. So that's why Donald Trump is doing this. Now you have the Democrats that are saying we're living in fear. Where everything's so chaotic. But my question to them is, are you fearful about lower prices? Are you fearful about tax breaks? Are you fearful about not paying tips? Not paying taxes on tips or Social Security checks or on your overtime? Many of you work overtime. Are you fearful that Donald Trump's going to get rid of criminal, illegal aliens?
Okay.
Why are you scared?
And they're worried about if you're a federal employee, they're worried about their future. Well, because Donald Trump asked Elon Musk to cut $2 trillion out of the budget. They accused Donald Trump of the first 4 years of not cutting like he did. Tax reform, I believe, was working to do that, bring more revenue in, but they never got to the tax cut because of the pandemic. So what he's doing now is to look at the 2.3 million people working for the federal government. They all got emails saying, you can quit, we'll give you 6 months, which, by the way, is way too generous, I think. But come to work, you're fired, or take the 6 months. And just write in your subject line, say resigning. So that you should feel fear and loathing if you're not doing a good job. But if you like your job and are doing good at your job, you can keep your job. But this is part of a whole of government push to lean it out and bring our budget in line with $36 trillion in debt. You should not be fearful unless you're coasting. If you're coasting in your job, be fearful. But this is Elon Musk sleeping in the Eisenhower, in the office, on the couch, like he did with Tesla, trying to fix it. He's trying to fix the government the way he did SpaceX.
Well, something is obviously going wrong, Ainsley. We just had Americans die because it wasn't properly staffed and they weren't focusing on the right thing. Other agencies are going through something similar. It's just not a harsh job or a deadly job that could cause death, but other harms are happening in the government currently.
It's just sad we had to figure it all out this way. In this hour with breaking news minutes ago, CNN confirmed that the FAA has indefinitely shut down the low-altitude helicopter corridor that was in use at the time of Wednesday's mid-air collision that killed 67 people. CNN has exclusively obtained 2 videos that show the crash from angles we had not seen before. They're right here on your screen. You see the Army Black Hawk helicopter on the left, apparently flying right into the path of the American Airlines plane. And here's another video capturing the moment before the impact. The helicopter is traveling over the Potomac River as the plane makes its descent to Reagan National Airport. And some experts are wondering if the Army pilot was confused by the other bright lights and didn't see the approaching plane, perhaps confusing it with another plane. Also this morning, the New York Times is reporting that the Black Hawk may have strayed off course. Quote, the military helicopter appears to have been flying too high and outside its approved flight path at the time of the crash, according to 4 people briefed on the matter, but not authorized to speak publicly, end quote. NTSB investigators have recovered both the voice and data recorders from Flight 5340.
This also is like breaking people's brains because it's a military helicopter that crashed in and that crashed into the commercial airliner. Also on top of that, it was I mean, it's in DC. Also on top of that, they were saying that they were doing like a regular training session or something like that. What is it, like a continuity plan? So all of the, I suspect, all of the greatest minds, all the top minds of conspiracy are aching to make this into a very, very big deal. I mean, I get it. If I was a conspiratorial person, I would look at the situation and go, this is it. I've hit it big. Continuity of government. Yeah. It's just like fatal training accidents happen. Oftentimes it doesn't lead to this many civilian casualties. And oftentimes it doesn't lead to this public of an affair. Right. But goddamn, dude, this is like, oof, for conspiracy talk. This is the greatest day of all time. Okay. Hey, go to census.gov. Yeah, they're taking out all of the websites one by one currently. Okay. I think at least it seems like some of them are coming back.
And hope to have a preliminary report ready within the next 30 days. CNN's Renee Marsh is at Reagan National. Renee, what are we learning about this FAA action to close the helicopter corridor?
Right, Pamela, that is the latest development here as this investigation is underway, and this is quite a significant move, the first significant aviation safety move since this mid-air collision outside of Reagan National Airport concerning the airspace surrounding the airport. Now, this airspace that has been shut down by the FAA is used not only by commercial airliners coming and going from this airport, but also military aircraft as well as law enforcement aircraft. But in light of that mid-air collision, the FAA has made the determination to close traffic to anything except for those commercial aircraft. And you talked about this other new reporting that I'm sure investigators are also going to be looking into, which is whether or not this helicopter left the proper altitude that it should have been. And if this deviation away from the altitude that it should have been at, this Black Hawk, is actually confirmed, it would certainly mean that the pilot of that Black Hawk was not following flight regulations at that time because these helicopters are supposed to be flying at very specific altitude, 200 feet or less. And so that is certainly something that investigators will be zeroing in on when they retrieve the black box from the Black Hawk helicopter. That has not been retrieved yet, but they have retrieved the black boxes from the commercial passenger plane. They are already starting work on that. It is in their labs. They have opened it and they've begun the process of reviewing the data from those black boxes. We know that investigators say that they are confident, based on the condition of the black boxes from the commercial passenger plane, that they will be able to get data from it. Also, the NTSB is tapping into their expertise across the country. We got word today that they have tapped one of their members from Alaska. They have flown that individual in. He's a former pilot of a Black Hawk helicopter, so tapping into his expertise on that. And of course, another crucial part of this investigation, Pamela, is going to be the air traffic controllers. We do know that the NTSB at this hour, they have not yet had interviews with the air traffic controllers, so that is soon to come. Pamela?
And there was this near miss the day before the collision between an airplane and helicopter. Tell us about that.
Right, just further highlighting the complicated airspace that is the airspace around Reagan National Airport. It was just the day before this mid-air collision that another passenger plane coming in for a landing had to actually abort landing because another helicopter had come too close into its path. We have the sound from the air traffic control for that incident. Let's take a listen.
I just started a helicopter over Georgetown, northbound, 300 feet.
Hey, Tower, we had an RA, but 45 Fortune's going around.
We had an RA with the helicopter traffic below us.
So clearly with this, the incident that is being investigated today, you have that previous incident. It has clearly become evident to investigators that this complicated airspace, something needed to be done more immediately, even though this investigation is ongoing. And Pamela, again, that headline today, the FAA shutting down this airspace around Reagan National Airport to those military helicopters.
Yeah, that's a big development. Renee Marsh, thank you. And our next guest is a former air traffic controller who personally shut down New York City's airspace on 9/11, and he may have been the first person to realize America was under attack that day. Michael McCormick joins us now. Thanks for your time. So as a former air traffic controller, what was your immediate reaction when you learned about this crash and subsequently as more evidence is coming in to process?
Pamela, just like the rest of the country, I was absolutely shocked when I learned of this mid-air collision, especially with the loss of life on board.
Conspiracy talk is booming.
You expect me to believe that a Black Hawk helicopter...
This has 945,000 likes, dude. I'm so cooked. We are so cooked. Dude, we're done. We're done. We're done. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. It's over. Wrap it up, dude. Yo, is satire?
Collided with an American Airlines flight in DC's most modern and secure airspace. An American Eagle flight that was en route from Wichita, Kansas. Does anybody know about what's happening in Kansas right now? You know, a major Cheburka, you know what outbreak? Putting that aside, I just so happened to track the helicopter's path as well before you were unable to all of a sudden. And boy, did I discover a lot of very interesting information.
Was it... Did he, what, a tuberculosis? Is that, why didn't he say tuberculosis? Can you not say tuberculosis on TikTok? Are you not allowed to say tuberculosis on TikTok?
This is not something
Let's
that
continue with
you
this.
would expect to see within the air traffic control community. And my thoughts and prayers go out to the families of the passengers or crew on board both aircraft, and also to the air traffic controllers at Washington National, who I'm sure are having a very difficult time right now.
My heart feels for them because I think about that moment when the collision happened and then the air traffic controller had to see the collision and then immediately pivot and deal with all the other planes coming in and redirecting them to the other airports in the area. I mean, talk about true professionalism. But you have to wonder what they're thinking, how they're feeling right now. According to the New York Times, audio recordings reveal that the passenger jet was originally cleared by the control tower for one runway and then was cleared for another runway. What is your assessment of that and just the timing here of the communication with the helicopter pilot just around 13 seconds before the collision happened?
That is not an unusual maneuver for Washington National Airport. the main runway is what the aircraft was initially sequenced for. The controller made the decision to circle the aircraft to runway 33, and that allows the tower to be able to get more departures off of the main primary runway, while the aircraft was circling to land on the secondary runway. Unfortunately, because of that maneuver, it put American right into the flight path of the helicopter.
And a source tells CNN that one controller was working 2 positions at the time of the crash. I think that for the layperson, you're like, oh my gosh, what? They were working 2 positions covering the helicopters and the planes, but apparently that's common practice. Should it no longer be common practice?
It is a common practice in all air traffic control facilities that you open and close positions based upon the volume and complexity.
I got a new jacket.
Time that provides maximum flexibility to handle what's going on in a control tower or in any other air traffic control facility. In this instance, it was actually a good thing because now you have one controller who's actually talking to and controlling both of the aircraft. Otherwise,
It's a brand called Color. It's a Japanese brand called Color with a K, and it's sick.
if it was a separate controller, then the 2 controllers would have to constantly coordinate back and forth about what is happening and what they're choosing to do.
Just taking a step back, I often think about how stressful that job is to be an air traffic controller. Just bring us into what it's like to be one and sort of the daily stress and the pressure that you're under.
It is crazy that now that Donald Trump is president, the media is finally doing pro-labor, like basically talking about, the media is basically doing like pro-labor coverage, talking about how, the air traffic controllers are underfunded and that they're understaffed. Typical. It took Donald Trump becoming president again for them to be like, hey, we got to do contentious coverage again. Classic. Now, of course, I've long maintained the position that they are not going to be as contentious as they should be. Okay. Just so you understand, like, you're going to get very limited amount of contentious coverage out of these guys. If your expectation is that they're going to be like really aggressive, really going out of their way and like going after the Trump administration for all its faults and failures, I don't think they're going to do that. But there are certain instances where they will shine a light on what is the real issue. This is one of those instances, it seems, where they're just like, yeah, Donald Trump's immediate blame on DEI initiatives is perhaps not the reason why this happened. And it's, I think, a very glaringly obvious instance. So Trump exclusively blaming that or hitting that button will most likely end up backfiring. You'll also see like regulatory agencies aggressively go after. It's just, I still suspect that, I still personally suspect that the DEI button is going to be overused. And yes, the dumbest of Trump supporters are going to be on board with it always and forever. But slowly but surely, it will eat away at the number of people that truly believe it, especially if it like is a traumatizing incident that impacts many Americans, right? You can't say 9/11 happened because of DEI, for example. Now, this wasn't 9/11, but it's still a very high-profile incident that is super traumatic. So if you look at that situation and go, oh, it must be DEI, you're like, I don't know about that, Anyway, let's continue.
I mean, I can't even imagine what they're feeling right now. And you heard President Trump talking about it yesterday, not to make this.
They're overusing it too hard. It doesn't have to be. But don't you think by that time it'll be replaced by something else? BLM, CRT? Yes, there is a likelihood of that too. But now they're in power. It's a little bit different when you're in power. Because think about it this way. The CRT stuff, the woke stuff, all this was inventions when you're out of power. But when you're in power, you are still ultimately responsible for things that are happening under your watch. So when you're in power and you're when you're in power and you complain about DEI, people are inevitably going to think, okay, it's kind of your fault, and I feel like you're deflecting blame away, and I've heard the story too many times, so now I'm starting to think maybe you're just kind of using it. Like in other instances, I still agree with you, but in this one, it seems like, maybe not the case. But yeah, as things get worse and worse year over year, as conditions worsen across the board, oftentimes due to underfunding, understaffing, the same exact problems that persist because everyone is interested in corner cutting. Inevitably, you will see more accidents like this happening, more devastating impacts of climate change, and they will constantly resort to DEI over and over and over again.
But he's blaming DEI policies without having the evidence to support that. And I just want you to tell us from your experience what it's like.
I believe the air traffic control profession is what is known as a meritocracy, and that is only the best can go through the rigorous selection program, the screening program, and then the 1 to 5 year training program prior to receiving their certification. So having gone through that, we are very proud to have professionals who are competent and dedicated to providing the safest service in the world. And as a controller, I think there's nothing more gratifying, more fulfilling than being able to provide that service to our country. And there is no stress. When you enjoy your profession, you do not feel the stress. You deal with the responsibilities. You compartmentalize, as in the case of when this accident occurred, the controller immediately moved to where the priorities were. And that is air traffic control.
It's just remarkable. It really is. Michael McCormick, thank you.
Gaming is a world of weird, and every month the weird stuff happens. Every month, also, GameRanks compiles the weird, puts the weird into a video, and then we all watch together, marveling at the weird. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanks, the weird gaming stories of January 2025. Starting off with number 10, a League of Legends player did the math and estimates that if you're doing free-to-play only, you're going to unlock a new champion after a lot of work. And I mean a lot of work. Like, do you have 37 days of no school, no job, no sleep to spare? Because that's about how long it would take. 882 hours, according to some math done by a user named Barack Problema. And this has other users complaining that it's making League of Legends that much less accessible to new players, and the community can't grow, which is necessary for a game to stick around generally. Andre Van Roon, the head of League Studio, said on Twitter it wasn't meant to actually happen, and that they are looking in to see if something isn't functioning as intended now. Which I'm going to go ahead and say, if you weren't intending to do that, then yes, something isn't functioning as intended. Captain Obvious over here. Whether that's intentional or not, there shouldn't be any mechanism that makes that even possible. That's nuts. And number 9, that amazing GTA Liberty City Preservation Project, where people were bringing GTA 4 as a mod to GTA 5. I mean, everybody was looking at it. It was very cool, very exciting. I mean, the damn thing had a fully functioning subway system. And, I mean, if there's only one positive thing to take away from the fact that Rockstar shut them down, it has started up the speculation for a remaster of the original game, which would be good, because out of all of the old GTA games, it's probably the most finicky to get going on anything. Still, it's disappointing. I call it weird only because of the speculation it started up. Normally, people respond to stuff like this by just being mad at the developer. Like, oh, maybe they're remastering it. Oh. I guess it's whatever. I'm kind of disappointed, personally. I would have liked it if they were allowed to do this. It's not like I wouldn't buy a remaster of GTA 4 if they did it. Like I said, it's finicky. It doesn't work right. But, you know, I guess whatever. At number 8, a retrospective was put out in PC Gamer with Crytek CEO Kevat Yearly to talk about the original Crysis's development back from 2007. So, I mean, we all knew that they went kind of crazy making that game. They went way, way beyond what they needed to do. It was, you know the memes. Can it run Crysis? We said about every damn thing. And almost nothing could, in all seriousness. But old Mr. Yearly confirmed they went well beyond. They literally created a blushing system, like as in, ooh, Mr. Beauregard. Like, I think that's what they mean. I don't even know, if I'm completely honest. They had nose shadows. They sent developers to Haiti to photograph leaves to get translucency information. I mean, they went way beyond what anyone would consider sane making that game. And to be fair, I mean, it is a benchmark game. I'm never going to tell you that Crysis wasn't a massive achievement. It was. But wow, I would highly recommend looking at all the weird stuff they did making this game over in that PC Gamer article. It's absurd. Moving on to number 7, some lunatic Team Fortress 2 players did an insane hat trade. If you're unaware, you can unbox hats in the game, and you can trade them. I mean, it's a cosmetic. It's not a big deal. It's, you would get what cosmetics are at this point. It's 2025 at the, but there's a very particularly rare hat, apparently the best you can get. Nobody's been able to obtain it in 10 years, and apparently this is the biggest trade in Team Fortress 2 histories, with about $18,000 worth of keys. Now, keep in mind, Team Fortress 2 keys go for about $2.18 on Steam. So that's actually $52,000 worth of keys for a hat in a game. I'm sorry, but that's a hell of a whale right there, I play free games, and I generally don't spend money in them. When I pop on a free game, I usually free to play it, and that's why the whole League of Legends time to unlock a new champion thing matters to me. I don't really play League a whole lot, but wow, that really disincentivizes me to. But it goes and it shows you how much money people are willing to pay as individuals into these games. Now, Steam didn't benefit from this, I don't think.